channels, flows, and networks of communication in formal communication, we can say. In informal communication also, we have a host of the channels, but we are not dealing with the informal communication. Okay. So these channels can be occurring into the business organization, and how communication flows into the organization, outside the organization, or the rest of the organization, we will learn it.
हेलो सर।
Yes.
सर आपका आवाज बहुत धीरे से आ रहा है।
Is everyone having the issue?
Yes, sir. No, sir.
Actually, network और आपकी device वो सब affect करते हैं, because I'm using the same device, same login. I think there will be no issue. अगर आपको आवाज कम आता है तो आप वॉल्यूम बढ़ाइए आपका, नहीं तो ईयरफोन से सुनिए, ठीक है। अगर आपको फिर भी तकलीफ है तो मैं थोड़ा रेज करता हूँ वॉइस, नो प्रॉब्लम। So, which are the flows or the channels of the communication? Let's see. In exam, you will have the question. Sometimes they will also ask you the objective questions, so that you can understand the topic thoroughly. Then and then only you would be able to answer. So when we think about the flows of communication or channels of the communication, which channels are there? Let's see. First, we will learn about the extrapersonal channel of communication. What is extrapersonal? We'll let you know. Then intrapersonal communication. Then interpersonal communication, organizational communication, and mass communication. So these are the formal networks or the channels of the communication happening in the formal communication. Now, when we think about the extra-personal communication of the channel, this is informal way of communication. So we are not dealing in detail here. So communication between human beings and non-human entities is called as extra-personal communication. Now you have to pay attention that the communication happening here is between human and non-human entities. It means it could be animals, it could be to devices. So that's known as extra-personal communication, right? So we do have a communication with our pet dogs, animals, right? And that communication is known as extra-personal communication. For an example, your parrot responding to your greeting, your dog responding to your body language you are doing, you are talking something to them, or a cat. So all the pet animals can involve into the extra-personal kind of communication. Now this communication is limited because the non-human entities don't have a language. So when those non-human entities will communicate to you, they will create some kinds of the sounds and through which they will communicate. I said that it's limited, so everything cannot be conveyed to them and they cannot understand everything whatever you talk to them, right? So this communication is very limited. So in this type of communication, understanding required between sender and receiver. So if you have a paid dog and you are communicating, the paid dog will communicate with you only effectively. If friends are coming to your home, maybe it will be depending about the relationship between the non-human entity and the new person. So there would be no communication at all or very limited communication would be there. So there should be understanding between non-human entity and the human beings. And thus communication where the receiver responds in sign language only. The dog will bark, will create a sound in a certain way and will communicate to you, right? If you use a language, that non-human entity will not use the language in response. So that's known as extrapersonal communication. Now coming to do intrapersonal communication. Intra means within. So within also, as an individual, we also try to motivate ourselves, we talk to ourselves, we think. So that communication is known as intrapersonal communication. So within our body, when the communication goes on, so that communication is known as intrapersonal. So intrapersonal communication takes place within the individual. Every individual can communicate himself or herself. Now here sometimes that communication could also happen to our body, and that body have a different organs, senses. So those senses can communicate to the different parts of the body and the brain, and that communication can happen. So if we look for the process of communication here, simply I can explain to you. So here when Any organ initiate a communication, that could become a sender. For an example, if you are sitting in a room and you are feeling hot, so at that time your body will respond. Every part of the body you are feeling hot, where will respond to your brain that there is a requirement of air. So what it will, how it will happen? So sender will become your body, and who will be the receiver? Your brain, right? So body will send a signal to the brain, and brain will search for the option. What is option available there? So ultimately, you will search for a switch and fan, right? And you will turn on the fan. So these signals will be sent to you by the brain to the body, and you will respond, right? So that is the process of communication within happening with our body organs and the brain. Even when we are thinking, we are taking decisions, we are motivating ourselves, that is also a kind of intrapersonal communication, right? So sender is our relevant organ and the receiver is our brain, because brain will take actions and decisions. So receiver would be brain and he will be the acting agent. It will be the acting agent when it comes to initiate an action. Okay. So feedback is provided by the brain, right? So that's known as intrapersonal communication. The third category, interpersonal communication. Now this is the communication where we deal in detail. So what is interpersonal communication? Communication at this level refers to the sharing of information among the people. So when people are sharing information to each other, that's known as interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication doesn't limit it to the number of the people getting involved in, right? So we can say there will be two members or there will be the n number of the people into the process of communication. Interpersonal communication can be formal and informal. Based on the objective you have, you can divide it into the formal communication and the informal communication. Now the communication I am doing with you is strictly formal. But when you are meeting me personally in my room, so there if we talk of the topic which are not relevant to our syllabus, could be informal communication. So family member, friends, when we are talking to them, when we are sharing our feelings, thoughts, etc., those could be the categories of interpersonal communication. So for an example, interaction with family members, friends, and different kinds of the people could be known as informal communication or formal communication as well. But it depends upon the variety of factors like psychology of the two parties, relation between them. So whenever you try to communicate with someone, it will be the relating psychology you have, and based on that, you would be able to communicate to the people. So that's why when it comes to the people, we couldn't have a good communication with everyone, because everybody's psychology, our psychology with that person also affects the communication. Now, the next category of the communication or flow is known as organizational communication. So the communication which is happening into the organization on a different hierarchical level is known as organizational communication. Now, what is hierarchy? The level of authority is known as hierarchical level. So it can be divided into two types. Those are internal operational. So this is very simple to understand. Internal operation means you can take any X organization and the communication happening into that organization for the basic purpose and the business is known as internal operational. Right? Take an example of our college. When every faculty is engaging the lectures, uh, fulfilling all the requirements pertaining to his job profile is known as internal operational. Right? And then external operational. External operational refers to communication from one organization to the other organization, but this is also strictly formal for the basic purpose. For an example, when we are calling an event into our organization and we are expecting that the participants should be from the rest of the institutions, so when we are sending them letters, then brochures, sending the students to convey the message would be the external operational, right? So it is for a specific operation and we are communicating outside the organization to the other organization or other people. So that's known as external operational. Now, when we think about the internal operational, there are various flows are available here. Let's see them briefly. First, all communication that occurs into the organization is classified as internal operational. So whichever communication happens in every department with everyone pertains to that particular activity of business is known as internal operational. But it is limited to the X organization only. Right? External operational, we already said, I already explained to you. Work related communication with the people of the organization is called external operational. And personal communication, while doing the external operational and internal operational, we are doing the personal communication as well. For an example, whenever you join to an organization, apart from the business communication you have, you can also share your thoughts, feelings. So that kind of communication which doesn't have a direct relation with the business. So that's known as personal communication, right? Your family problems, your personal problems, work related issues would be coming to the personal communication. So all communication in an organization without a purpose, though it has a personal purpose, but it doesn't have a business purpose. So that's why it is coming into the category of personal communication. Okay. So now we can see with the flow chart different flows of communication. Whichever flows I explained to you will be coming into these categories, right? So when we think about the internal communication, we have downward communication and upward communication. So this communication flows in a vertical channel, downward and upward. The channel is vertical. So this communication also known as vertical communication. In internal communication, we also do have horizontal communication. This flow is known as horizontal because communication is flowing in a horizontal way, right? We'll explain you later in the coming slides. And the other kind of communication which is known as grapevine communication. This particular communication channel doesn't have a horizontal or vertical channel. It can flow in any direction. So that's why it's known as grapevine communication, right? And we have external communication. Communication pertains to the other organization. People from the outside organization is known as external communication, right? So let's see in detail. External communication, again, I already explained to you. So information messages flow from one organization to the other organization is known as external communication. So this kind of communication is essential because whenever you have products and services and you have to do marketing, people should know it. For that purpose, we do have a external kind of communication. So this communication is also formal. People have to understand what kind of product and services you are providing to them and how to get access by those products and services. So for that purpose, we do have external communication. So communication with the customers, suppliers, banks, insurance companies, government departments, media and advertising, etc. are coming into the kind of external communication, right? So this is also formal communication flows from within the organization and outside the organization as well. So it may be in the forms of letters, telephonic conversations, reports, press, handouts, and speeches, right? So different methods could be used to communicate the information. Now coming to the internal communication, which we will see in detail, and this is very important for us. So whenever we think about the organization can be big or small in nature. But when it comes to the flows of communication, so basic flows of communication we are going to learn, and these flows could be there in the big and small organization, right? So that this doesn't limit, is it a national, multinational or local company, right? So there is a large volume of communication within the organization is known as internal communication. Anything which is communicated within the organization is known as internal communication. So following other channels, we already learned it into the flow chart. So first channel is known as vertical communication because the communication flows in vertical direction. So that's why it's known as vertical. So it has two categories. First, downward communication and upward communication. So the communication can flow downward or upward. It is in vertical way. So that's why it's vertical communication. Then we do have the horizontal communication here. The flow of communication is horizontal, so that's why it's known as horizontal communication. And we do have a gray point communication. So gray point communication is also informal. So basically we are learning the formal communication. Horizontal and vertical communication is formal communication, whereas gray point is informal. We are studying it because it's also important as compared to the rest of two. So it's equally important, right? Now coming to the vertical communication, which are the categories are available here. First, it starts with downward communication. So I already explained to you that communication can flow in downward and upward, but how it will flow, and we'll explain the detail now in detail. So when we think about the downward communication, the communication flows from higher level of the authority to the lower level of the authority in the organization, right? I said hierarchical level should be maintained. Without hierarchical level, we cannot say that the communication can happen properly. So it is flowing from a higher level employee to the junior level of the employee. So that is the flow is from higher to lower. So that's why it's known as downward communication, right? So this communication is done in the forms of directions, instructions, and information which flow from superiors to subordinates is the communication flow in downward pattern. I can give an example of our institution. When management takes any decision, for an example, a director takes a decision, a particular decision for our college, then that will be communicated to the principal. Now, principal will communicate the same message to the HODs, and then HODs will communicate to the faculties, and then faculties will communicate to students. So the flow is in downward pattern, right? So that's why this flow of communication is known as downward communication. So it could be orders, instructions, directions, right? Anything we can say, which will be communicated by the higher level of the authority to the junior level of the authority. So it is used to convey routine information, routine orders, routine nature of the work, everyday work, right? So that could be conveyed from higher level to the lower level. Then new policies. If any policy is being planned by the organization on the management level, it will be communicated to the junior level employees from the higher level. Then seek clarifications when any problem occurs. The in charge will ask for the clarification to the junior level of the employee to ask for the analysis and feedback. For these purposes, downward communication is happen. Without it, we cannot do these kinds of activities, right? So that's why downward communication is important. So for an example, it could be in the forms of, these are the means, memos, notices, face-to-face interaction, and telephonic conversation. Also presentations are there, meetings are there, right? So this is known as downward communication. I will show you a flow chart through which you will understand how the communication can flow. So as the arrow is downward, so when communication start from the higher level of the authority, like board of director will convey order to the managing director will convey to the departmental managers, and the departmental manager will convey the message to the supervisors, and then it will be communicated to the lower level of the employee. Right? So this way the communication will flow in downward flow or pattern. So when we think about any channel of the communication, it has certain drawbacks as well as positives. So when we think about the merits and demerits and the drawbacks, so let's see, it's very easy to understand and identify what are the merits are there for the downward communication. So the first merit would be giving job instructions. This could be possible only when the higher level of the authority will guide, instruct to the lower level of the employee. So job directions, instructions could be given from the higher level to the lower level. So for that purpose, we need to have downward communication. Then implementation of goal and strategies. So whichever decisions and strategies are being developed by the organization should be communicated to the concerned people. So communication will flow in downward direction. Then performance feedback. How you are performing on the particular department, on the particular position will be analyzed, assessed, and the concerned member or the employee will tell you what is the performance or the feedback will provided by them, right, based on the performance you did. Now it has certain demerits. First demerit is over communication. Many a times when you are visiting to any organization or when the instructions are being issued, there are chances that over communication could be happening. Certain times the sender doesn't understand the level of the employer and the knowledge, then he conveys so much information to you that you fail to have over communication, over information. So that could be possible through the downward communication. Opposite to over communication, under communication can also happen. If the instructions guidance wasn't provided you properly and there is a miss, then it is known as under communication. A certain person as a senior level of the employee, when you are issuing the orders instructions, you have to understand the level of understanding as well as the knowledge and experience of that certain employee. Then it's time consuming. As you know, it passing from the various channels from higher to lower level of the employee. So when it is passing from the different level of the hierarchical level, there are chances that it will take more time to reach to the concerned person. For an example, if an important order is being instructed by the director to the students, but it will not reach directly from the director to the students, it has to pass certain channels and the level of the employers, then it takes time. So director has issued the order few days ago, but you will receive the instruction now. So it's time consuming. And loss of information is happening. So when message is passing from the different level of the employees, it may possible that the concern everyone who is getting involved into that message will change it, will modify it. We'll let you know with the example. I will show you a video and then you can understand how the loss of information will be possible. Okay? Then in vertical communication, we have upward communication. This is totally opposite to the downward communication. So you can easily understand it. When messages, information that flow from the subordinates to the higher level of the authority is known as upward communication, right? Even from the management is also getting information from the lower level of the employees and accordingly they're planning. So that communication could be known as upward communication. So in upward communication, it is essential to solve problems, suggestions for the improvements, performance reports, grievances and disputes, then financial and accounting information. So for that purpose, we need to have upward communication channel. For example, if accountant falls short of the money, he will instruct the management. So accordingly, the management will plan, right? So for that purpose, upward communication is equally important as downward communication. It encourages participation. It also helps to know the feedback of the lower level of the people, and it also develops the goodwill between higher level of the employee and lower level of the employee. If upward communication couldn't be there, only orders are being issued by the higher level of the authority without understanding the problems, the employee cannot function well and cannot be effective. So for that purpose, we do need to have upward communication channel. As you can see, the arrow is showing in upward direction. So it's known as upward communication. So clerk and operators will instruct to the supervisor. Supervisor will pass the message to the departmental managers. Departmental managers will pass to the managing director. And then it will reach to the board of directors and they will take the decision accordingly. Right? So that flow of communication is in upward direction. So it's known as upward communication. Now see the drawbacks and merits. So this particular communication is essential for suggestions. For an example, many of the students are having the issues with the Teams platform. How do we come to know? When you are suggesting, when you are informing us that we do have these problems, right? So for that purpose, it's required. Then it is also required to have open door policy. So the lower level of the employee will raise to the higher level of the employee, and they will talk their problems, suggestions, solutions. That's known as open door policy. Sometimes there is a structure into the organization where upward communication is not motivated. So that is known as closed door policy, right? It also helps to know the feedback. So if any particular uh, law is made, any particular rules are made, what is the effectiveness of that? It will be coming to it will come to know to the management through the feedback provided by the people, and the lower level of the people will provide the feedback on the new happening, right? And accordingly, the management will find out the solutions, or they may change the policy or the laws. Then it is helpful for the problems, suggestions, and performance. For that purpose, we need to have upward communication. Then looking at the demerits, the first demerit is fear of authority. Sometimes, because of the nature of that particular person, if he is very hostile, arrogant, and always barks at the people, so people don't approach easily that person. And when they have issues or problems, they just deny it, so that it will create the fear of authority, right? And when there is a fear of authority, people will not communicate openly, and there will be a loss of the organization. Then unwillingness to admit failure. Many times, level of the employee will not admit the failure they have, mistake they have, because it will lose the goodwill between the higher level to the lower level of the employee. It also happens with the students. When you do have a problem, but you do not want to show that you have a particular lacuna or ignorance, so that time it is coming to the problem with the concerned person. He will assume and understand that you are well informed and well knowledgeable, but you don't have it, and there will be issues in long run, right? So that could be the demerit. Then sometimes it may also bypass the authority. For an example, if you are instructed to discuss the problem with the class advisor only, but due to the certain reasons, you just bypass him. You do not reach to that concerned person, but you reach to the HOD or the principal. You are bypassing the authority, and when principal will instruct to the concerned class advisor, he will come to know that he was bypassed. So bypassing problem is creating ego issues and the quarrels into the organization. So the better way is first discuss the problem with the concerned authority, the in charge authority. If he is not able to solve the problem, then you can bypass him. Okay. So bypassing could be possible into the vertical communication. The next, horizontal communication. As you already understood, when the flow of communication is horizontal, that is known as horizontal communication. Let's see in detail. So horizontal communication refers to the communication among the members at the same level in the organization. Now, when we see the vertical communication, where the communication is happening from the higher level to the lower level, and lower level to the higher level. But in horizontal communication, communication will not flow in that direction. It will flow on the same level of the authority. Managing director will talk to the other managing directors, right? A supervisor from one department will talk to the supervisor of the other department, is known as horizontal communication. Okay. So if we have a big size of the organization and complexity is there of the departments, we need to have horizontal communication, so that it will save the time, and it will also break the formal chain of command. Formal chain of command is higher level of the authority will issue the command to the lower level, right? How it will break, I will let you know. So this communication is necessary to fulfill functions like coordination among the departments, sharing the information, solving the problems, providing advice and support. So we can also take the example now of our college. We do have a 6 departments, and every department have a same level of the authority, HOD, concerned faculty, right, and the students. So when a decision is being taken, it's taken for the whole organization, right? Sometimes there could be a chances that interdepartment problems would be there. So to solve out these particular problems, if you start to flow the communication from lower level to the higher level, it takes time. For an example, I am talking to you an example. Suppose if a computer department have issues with the mechanical department, so what the computer department students will do, they will instruct to the concerned faculty. Faculty will talk to the HOD. Then the HOD will talk to the principal. Then principal will convey the message to the mechanical department head. Then the head will convey the message to the concerned faculty, and then faculty will talk to the students. So this takes time. But if the students directly reaching from one department to the other department and talking the problems, it will save time, right? If a faculty of mechanical department talk the problem with the computer department, it will sort out the problem, right? So when you want to break the formal chain, but you cannot break it without having the authority, right? So this communication is very important. And when the interdepartment functions are not good, the organization cannot survive or cannot progress into the future. So for that purpose also, horizontal communication is important. So as you can see through the flow chart, it can flow in the same direction. So managing director will talk to the other managing directors, departmental managers will talk to the other departmental managers, supervisors will talk to the other departmental supervisors. So that the flow of communication is on the same level of the authority, right? So this is known as horizontal communication. Students, are you understanding? Do you understand whatever I explained to you?
Yes,
Provide
sir.
the feedback. Otherwise, I will continue. And if you have any issue, you can stop me in between, right? Now look for the some
Yes, sir.
advantages here. So it saves the time. As you did not to follow the formal channel command, it will save the time. You should not go in a vertical communication. So it saves the time, right? Then coordination among the different levels of the departments could be possible, right? So this could be effective when it comes to function as a whole, as a team. So for that purpose also, we do need to have horizontal communication. Then it also improves the efficiency of the organization, efficiency of every department. For an example, if the sales are low and production department is producing more, so in long run, the organization may face losses. So there should be a coordination. If sales are low, then production department has to limit the production, right? So in this way, it will improve the overall efficiency of the organization. Then it also improves the productivity of the employees in the department, right? Suppose if a store manager doesn't issue the things required for the other departments, the product and raw material required for the other department, it will not lead to the productivity. But if it is helpful, it will improve the productivity and inter-department functions truly well. Then immediate feedback will be happening through the horizontal communication, as the same level of the employees can be getting involved. Then it also removes the jealousy. In a vertical channel, what happens? Some of the people are given more importance than the other. For an example, suppose a principal will talk to the computer HOD and the other department HOD. If the computer department HOD is in favor of her, then it have a jealousy, right? All the things he is getting on time, but the other department HODs are not getting it. So there will be a jealousy. But if they do have a meeting on the same level of the authority and will talk the issues, it removes the jealousy, right? Then it is essential for the check of the grapevine. When the rumors are being passed in inter-department, So interdepartmental meeting would be there, and through which they will come to know are their rumors are being passed and grapevine communication is happening. Let's see the drawbacks. It disrupts if used in excess. Sometimes it may possible that into the meeting, when a meeting is of all the HODs with the principal is called, and some people are given more chances to speak and some of them are being kept quiet. So it is disruption into the department, right? So it could lead to the disruption into the functioning of that particular department. Feeling of frustration could be possible. Suppose if the production and sales department not coordinating, and the sales department head is not cooperating with the production head, so this could lead to the frustration, right? Then waste of time. As you know, when same level of the authority is being called for the meeting, they do have a gossiping, and rest of the other issues are being discussed, and less chances given or less importance is given to the vital issues. Waste time. Then it also leads to the interdepartmental rivalry. If the sales and production department is having issues with the HODs, the department employees also will have issues. So they will quarrel to each other, right? So it could lead to the rivalry into the interdepartments. So those are the drawbacks of horizontal communication. Now next, we are looking for the grapevine communication. Now the grapevine communication was underrated or is underrated every time, but it is very vital and effective as compared to the rest of formal communication. So let's see how. So when we think about the grapevine communication, it can be defined as means of secret communication. It's a complex network of the communication. Now it is a secret way of communication, though, and different methods are used to communicate. I can tell you an example. In the First World War, when many of the soldiers from the French were captured by Japanese, at that time, or Germans, I think. So at that time, when they were captured and kept into the cell, they were having a secret means of communication, and that secret means of communication was tapping in on the bar of the jail in a certain way. So they were communicating so effectively to each other, just tapping the bar, that one day they broke the jail. So this is a means of secret communication done by the people. We can use different code, different means of communication, and it cannot be identified by the other people, right? Then it is a spontaneous channel through which facts and rumors are passed. There will be 20% of the facts and 80% of the rumors, right? And rumors can spread fast as compared to the formal instructions and formal communication. So these are the kinds of communication in the grapevine: gossip, hearsay, rumors. So these are the kinds of communication which are known as grapevine communication. This kind of communication can do great harm or good to any organization depending on which kind of the messages are being passed. If the messages passed are positive in the grapevine, then it can create a positive environment for the organization. If the negative messages are passed, then it will create a loss for the organization. So it could cause workers to lose their morale or work with the double beggar. So it depends what kind of the messages are being passed. So as you can see the flow chart here, it can flow in any direction to any level of the employee without having the barrier. So it doesn't follow the vertical and horizontal way of communication, right? So that's why it is truly impactful for any organization. So when it comes to grapevine communication, so grapevine communication means the informal transmission of the information, gossip or rumor. So this is not for the purpose of the professional deeds, but this is for the personal use, which causing harm to the employees or the management. So it can transmit information rapidly, in many cases faster with a stronger impact. We already seen it. Grapevine is undocumented. You cannot find any proof of it, as gossips and rumors doesn't have a proof, and therefore open to change and interpretation as it moves through the networks. Many times you could also hear the rumor that if you are just curious that will tomorrow holiday or not, and somebody has passed that message to the few people, students, so that message will spread in a certain way that though the college hasn't formally announced that there will be a holiday tomorrow, students will consider that there is a holiday, right? So this is the power of the grade point. So it is not time bound. It doesn't require to have a time limit. It can be discussed anywhere on any topic with any language, right? So that's why it's more impactful than the any other means of formal communication. Now, factors which can affect the grade point communication. See, employees of every organization rely on the grade point communication when they feel threatened. If the management has passed the certain strict rules and they are being threatened to lose their job, they may pass grapevine, they may pass rumors to spread the bad news or negative messages. Then insecure. When people feel insecure into the organization, they involve in grapevine communication. When people of the organization are feeling the stress, so every organization do have the stress, but if there is a more stress, there will be a grapevine. Then when there is a pending change, if the salary or any other positive change hasn't occurred for the years, then there will be a grapevine communication. And when the communication from the management is limited, management doesn't encourage the formal way of communication and always suppressing their employees, so that could lead to create the grapevine communication. Now the next flow of communication we can see in the formal networks is known as mass communication. You know the term very well, what is mass communication, so briefly I will explain you. So communication through mass media like books, journals, TV, radio, newspaper, etc., websites, there are different means are available nowadays, is known as social network mass communication. From one person or from one channel, it is reaching to the end number of the people, is known as mass communication. So for this kind of communication, we require a mediator or transmitter for the information. So when we post any message on social media, that could be a mediator. It enables you to reach many people, right? For the mass media or mass communication, we need to have a mediator. And it has certain characteristics. Let's see. First, it could reach to the large people. So it will be from the one organization, other organization, or one person to the rest of the people of the country. It could reach to anyone in the world. Then it is impersonal. So many of the messages which we receive on mass media are impersonal, will not directly have impactful on us. For an example, when we are watching the news, though we are living in a pandemic now, but everybody is not being affected by COVID. So most of the messages which are coming on the mass media are impersonal. Then presence of gatekeeper. There will be a gatekeeper to have a watch on it. So what is it? So mass communication needs additional personal institutions to convey from one person to the other person. So that could be a gatekeeper, we can say, from which you can send messages effectively to the large number of the people, right? So now we are looking for the case studies. Meanwhile, first of all, you can mark the attendance. The link is open now. Do mark the attendance now. Okay, you are given 2 minutes. Within 2 minutes, you have to mark the attendance. Then we will look for the case studies. Please mark the attendance now. And after marking the attendance, do not leave the meeting. I do have some of the case studies with you. We will discuss them. Okay, have you marked the attendance?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now read the case studies. I will also read it. Try to understand it. Okay. First of all, you have to understand the example and then you can provide the feedback. While providing the feedback, you have to give the explanation as well. So the first case study, let's say an example here or a situation. In a factory, all the employees are on strike. The management has decided to solve the issues of employees. The leader of the employees who is working as a clerk in the same organization, the meeting is called and he is invited. He attends the meeting with a board of directors of the organization. Identify the channel of communication in the meeting. Now the clerk who joins, who is also working into that organization, who joins to the meeting of the board of directors as a representative of employee. So now the question is, if we think of a clerk, what kind of the communication is happening between the board of directors and the clerk who is attending that meeting? Is it downward, upward, or horizontal? Did you understand the situation and my question?
Vertical.
Yes. Please tell me the type of channel and then you have to explain. Why do you support this particular channel? What's your opinion? See, at the beginning, I ask you to be attentive so that you would be able to understand the case studies, the problems, and provide me the valid feedback. So, what do you think as a clerk when he is attending a meeting? What kind of communication is happening between them? Don't know? I gave you options. Is it downward, upward, or horizontal? Any guess you have? So this is not expected from you.
So it might be downward.
How?
From the MD, it will go uh, to the managers, and then managers will help it
No,
to
no.
the.
There is the meeting between the board of directors with that person, as he is the leader of the employees. So there is meeting. Into that meeting, you have to just identify which kind of communication or channel is happening there. Channel flow of communication is happening there. The messages will be directly delivered to the leader. So there is no involvement of the managers or any other people.
So most probably upward because the clerk and the board of committee are directly talking with each other.
Okay,
Hello, and
fine.
and the clerk is able to convey or suggest his suggestion directly to the board of the committee without any in between barriers like managers and stuff. He will directly able to contact the main and authorized person.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Thank you for providing feedback. Any other guess you have? Who do feel that this kind of communication is horizontal? So this is a horizontal channel because now when as a leader he is attending a meeting, he is holding the same position of the board of directors for that particular incident or situation only. After that, when he leaves the meeting and attends the duty, the communication done by the board of directors will be the downward. But now, as a representative, he is also having the same level of the authority. So that communication is happening as horizontal communication. Okay. So the channel of communication could change depend on the situations. Let's see the next case study. To answer it, this is the last. I do have one more, but as the time is about to end. Okay. So two department managers from one from sales and the other from the store are quarreling on the issue about to store the product. As sales are down, the sales department could not find sufficient place to store the product in allotted place. Ultimately, the manager shifted the product in store. Store manager does not expect to have encroachment in his department. The quarrel was so frequent that managing director has to intervene or interfere and sort out the issues. Now, tell me which kind of communication is happening. Please guess it. Any idea?
Horizontal.
Huh?
Downward.
Downwards, sir. Downwards.
Well, explain. Explanation is required.
As earlier, the two branch managers, the managers of the team were having a quarrel, and the managing director of a company, who is an authorized and is at a higher position, comes down to solve the problem. So it will be downward, as he could order them also to get that work. So he could easily convince them.
Right.
It will be downward.
Fine. Good explanation. Anyone want to provide any other explanation? Now here are those two situations when two department managers are quarreling. That could be horizontal communication, right? To solve that particular problem, the manager is coming. So there we can say downward communication could be happening, but